you feeling?
Oh, you go, girl. Hey, welcome back, gang. Meg Higgins here, your queen of second opinions. And tonight, I might as well be in church or at a pulpit because I got some things to say. You can catch me live on Facebook right now or mycitymymusic.com for those of you that want to experience me in all ways possible except being in the room with me. My partner in crime, Carl, is here.
Hey, hey, hey.
Hi, crime. That's funny. And there's such a term as high crime. I don't know what that means.
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. Yeah, it really doesn't matter. Okay, so let me just make sure I make this qualifying statement. The topic tonight is marriage. To do or not to do? That is the question. Good old Shakespeare. I had to borrow his little quip. Because it's like the longer I live, the more complicated that institution gets in my eyes. What's so interesting, it's so easy to get married, and it's just often, more times than not, so difficult to stay married. Yeah, it's really wild. So the opinions that I'm going to share tonight always come from two sources, which is why I call myself the queen of second opinions. Thank you. And the one source is, I got a lot of years on this planet. If you want to know the exact number, you get to go to my website, secondopinionated.com. You'll get the hard number. I don't like to drop numbers because I live through my spirit and she's 45. But the body has a number of years. I call it the third act of life. Anybody who's kicking it still after 60, and I am. Then the other source of my opinions derive from my 45 years as a clinical therapist who's still practicing. Retirement's not going to happen. Not in my bloodline, not in my DNA. I also have my father to thank. He never retired. He was self-employed, which is what I've been for the biggest part of my 45 years. So I'm coming at it, from personal life experience. And also, as a therapist, I spent 25 out of the 45 as a couples specialist. I would catch couples dating, engaged, shacking, married and doing good and wanted to upgrade their marriage, married and bored as hell, and then couples who were on the brink of divorce. And then I'd even stay with some who would get divorced so I could help them on the co-parenting side. So the opinions I have are mine. I am not here to sell anybody, influence anybody, persuade anybody, but I am giving myself a platform to finally share things that I've come to learn through direct experience. Remember that. This isn't me, being a talking head. Everything I bring comes from personal and professional, or both experiences. And that, to me, is what gives me credibility. Okay, so once upon a time, this chick was in my mother's utero and came out in the 50s. That's the decade that I was born. And some of you youngsters who are listening, you can't even begin to understand what it was like as a woman to be born at that time. I am officially a baby boomer, and I'm proud of it. Although I'd like to find a new name for that because boomers are getting some bad press right now. But the bottom line is the first thing that really does for many people, not all, but especially women, is the cultural conditioning that we are born into and raised into with regards to the role that men play in our lives, and especially how come marriage back then was the target. That's what I was groomed to go after. That was the epitome of being a woman. Not only to be associated with a man, but better yet, to be identified through being with a man. Think about that. think about how a person's identity is completely assigned to somebody else. Somebody else. In this case, I am a heterosexual, so I'm going to speak to it in the context of a woman being with a man. I don't know enough about the LGBTQ community to know. They've not ever found me in my practice. I don't know if they go through some of the same struggles with regards to the conditioning. I would imagine maybe not the same, but I'm sure there are struggles. But I refer to it as growing up in the Walt Disney era. And anybody who knows anything about Disney, he had a thing about fairy tales, especially for us women. We were groomed to go out and find our Prince Charming so that we would experience what was called a happily ever after life. But you know what? I look back on that, no one ever broke down what the hell does the happy look like? What does that mean? Never got assigned. But it definitely was a Kool-Aid that I drank, and drank heavily. And it wasn't just me. It was almost as if it was a hidden expectation. Go after that, and you'll be fine. Get married, have a man. It wasn't shacking. No, that was not it. That wasn't going on when I was coming up, although it came on later in my 30s. But that wasn't an option. Marriage was it. And one size was supposed to fit all. I have so many memories, but one of my all-time favorite memories regarding the expectation to get married was the one family gathering I went to, and I had an aunt, and she will remain nameless, who came up to me, because I was still single, and this was in my early 30s, came up to me and took that beautiful fingernail of hers and started tapping her watch, just like you're watching me do right now. And she said nothing. This is what I think is so profound. She said nothing, and she telepathically was communicating, clock's running out, you're not married, you're not close to getting married, and you don't have any children. So the subliminal message really was, what's wrong with you? And let me tell you something. Back at that time, they had a term, spinster, old maid. And what always ticked me off is the only word we could ever come up with for a man was bachelor, which has no, in my humble opinion, no negative connotation. But old maid and spinster sure did. It was a judgment. There's something wrong with you. You're not going to be wanted. What's the other term? Old hag. Oh, now I'm going to tell you right now, listeners, I educate my audience everywhere I go. And people can sniff out that I'm no youngster, that I'm definitely in the over 60, I call it third active life. And some of them have the nerve, although they've come by it honestly, to use the word old in my company. As a matter of fact, it happened about 5 hours ago. Young man said something with the word old. I said, oh, no, honey. If you're going to hang out with me, then you want to use that word old? That's fine, sweetheart. Put the letter B in front of it. Then we'll have a conversation. Oh, if his eyes could have rolled back in his head, they would have. Because I like being bold. I'm not ever going to sign on to being old. Back to, though, the cultural conditioning. The inference was, for a woman, there's something wrong with you, you're not enough, you need a man, versus just enjoying, desiring a man, which is where I am now. I'm done with the needing, but that's another time, another place. But the whole inference was, this guy, husband, started with boyfriend, completes you. And the whole thrill that was associated back in my time with getting a man was to have the experience of being chosen. Chosen. Think about that. And how many of us as children, because I was big on sports and wanted to try out various intramural teams, ones that were at school and ones that were not at school, and to be selected You want to get picked. Well, that was especially applied to having a man in your life. In other words, your identity would elevate if you had a boyfriend. And boy, I can remember, Carl, do people still get steady anymore? Go steady anymore?
No.
That I wonder. I need to look that up. When did that kick the curb?
I think just the term, the name of it is different now.
Oh, what do they call it now?
We date. We
Really?
just date. Yeah, we're just dating. I mean, you can date multiple people.
Dating is dead in my world. I call it affiliating or crossing paths. Yeah.
Just hanging out.
Hanging out. That's too loose for me. Too loose for me. But I definitely, that's interesting. I didn't think about that. Well, if you have a moment, Carl, Google going steady and see when did this culture retire that term, because that's what was going on. I'll never forget Bob. I won't tell anybody your last name, but some of my friends know who I'm talking about. I'll never forget when he gave me his ring. Oh my God. And it was heavy on top of it. I had to add a lot of tape to it just to wear it. But I was going to do whatever I had to do to wear that sucker, because just like with getting engaged with a lot of women, and I was guilty, you put out that ring. See? I've been chosen. I'm now part of this elite club. My work is over. You got something, Carl?
Yeah, in the 1950s and 60s,
well, I know.
It was the peak of going steady. This was the era of the Letterman jackets, exclusive dating before
totally
marriage.
About that. The letter jackets. I never got one.
Pinning girls.
That's right, pinning.
And then the promise rings.
Promise ring. And they say, so I guess it left, and maybe by the 70s.
Well, that was the peak, so yeah.
Yeah, probably. It was gone. I guess, yeah, but that's true, because when I went to college, yeah, that's true. No, that wasn't the thing. And the promise ring stopped. Thank you. I now know another way I can rely on you in this little partnership that we are creating right here.
So right now, Meg, we're doing dating apps, and we're in the talking stage. That's what we're calling it.
Talking stage.
Yeah.
Oh, God. It sounds almost like two countries coming together to sit at a table and potentially negotiate some kind of deal. But I think that really does come later.
I got one more for you. The talking stage turns into the situationships, which then turn into the relationship.
Now, see, you know what? Okay. I can't go there tonight because I have a really strong opinion about that.
Understood.
What I get a kick out of having lived this long is to really see what many of my supervisors as therapists would tell me, Meg, people are always kind of saying the same thing. They're just repackaging it, constantly repackaging it. And the friend with benefits, that's another term that sets me on fire. And I know why it is. I'll have to say this now, Rob. What's happened, and I think I'm just pissed off and envious, because back in my earlier day, I slept around. And the few people in my circle that got wind that that's what I was doing would, of course, drop the word slut. Do you know that word?
Yeah, that.
Whore.
Whew.
Woo!
Now, that's a lot.
Well, that's what was going on in the 50s and 60s and 70s. Slut, whore, promiscuous, which was a fluffier way to say it. But situationships is just as good as saying, and I'm gonna say it, don't hold this word against me, but you're gonna get it. It's like you've got a built-in fuck. That's what that is. You don't have to put a lot of effort to it. You negotiate the when and the where, and it's all above board. There's no strings attached. Well, sleeping around was the same thing, quite frankly, for a lot of us who just enjoyed sleeping around, that had no expectation or agenda. There are some of us out there, but thank you for bringing that up, and thank you. I'm just now realized another way you're going to be my partner on the show. You're going to, hey, would you look this up and verify it and update me? Okay. So the whole, so this cultural conditioning, so I go into my adolescence with this weight. And for some people, they almost felt like it was a shackle. With like, I've got to get somebody. I've got to get somebody because I'm nobody without having somebody. And I'm not surprised that I had very few takers. I'm not surprised. Because I didn't know myself. And I was just kind of going through life mimicking my peer group and what I saw, because I did not believe that I could even have my own opinion. Isn't that interesting? Full circle moment. So here I am growing up. Bring that bell. That's right. No wonder I like the name Second Opinion, because I skated through adolescence and into early adulthood, not letting myself have any. And I understand how I got there, and that's not something I'm going to touch upon tonight. But again, it's an interesting time. So you've got the cultural conditioning. Let me just take you a little bit more intimately into my story. Because again, I'm the real deal. And I love being in a profession that taught me to not self-disclose. And what I found, that was my secret sauce. I would let clients know different little slices and slivers and pieces of my story so they could see and experience firsthand, honey, no one's carrying this cross of life alone. We've all got stuff we've got to clean up and take care of. So I have this promiscuous time in my life, which was in my 20s. And I'll never forget, at some point, I don't remember, it doesn't matter what age, but I stopped and looked at my life and I'm like, girl, your track record. Do you see who you're attracting? Losers, dirtballs, and I won't go any further than that, but trust me, these are not the type of men that I would take home to my parents. But the bottom line is, you do what you got to do with the hopes, of catching somebody. Because again, my identity was so wrapped up in having somebody. So what's that saying? When people feel desperate, they do desperate things. Well, here was my desperate thing. I got engaged. Not a lot of my friends know about this. And that's because the pressure, I caved in. And there was a guy that we were going out and we were enjoying each other. He made it very clear very early on that he was in the market to get married. I wanted it, but again, for not all the healthy reasons. It was more like, again, to finally just get me out of this single crowd, because by the time I was in my late 20s, I was the only person in my tribe, my inner circle, that was not married and wasn't close to it. See, that was the rub. I wasn't even close. Jerry, that's his first name, and that as much as you get to know. But let me tell you what desperation will contribute to a person doing. So I think we were dating, again, details in the third act get a little fuzzy, but I know we had been going out for a steady 6 months, easily. And I think actually, now that I look back, it was about in the 8th month, to my surprise, and I was surprised, we didn't really talk at length about marriage. We just talked about it being on the menu, but he surprised me and proposed. And I immediately said yes.
Wow.
Not like, oh, really? Well, what prompts you to want to marry me? I asked no questions. I said, okay. And trust me, I'm not proud of this stuff. It's one of those moments where, and people do this. This is what happens for a lot of people whose marriages take a hit. What's going on, and this was one of my favorite questions as a couple specialist, I would ask my couples who were married or were getting close, what was going on in your individual lives when you intersected? Because, man, a lot of what's going on in each person's life oftentimes heavily influences the course of action for that couple, and especially the course of action around locking down, which is really what engagement and getting married is about. Claiming. But I said yes. I wasn't interested in probing or processing. I definitely was feeling the clock, thanks, Aunt Sally, that sense of desperation. Also, too, having been raised Catholic, even though I moved away from it in my 20s. But, you know, all that stuff is just embedded in your psyche around the institution, you know, the sacrament of marriage, and just, again, what it means. It's another way to be blessed. And I would often kid and say, it's just another way to get to heaven. You know, you do the right thing, blah, 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 blah. But that aside, I was so not interested in examining what was going on, and I was only going in by the impulse that I had, which was to get this done. We were only engaged a few months. And what I started to notice was he just really wasn't all that interested in me. And one of the ways people communicate interest in somebody is through affection, touch, a hug, a kiss. And then, yes, oftentimes the premarital sex shows up. This guy took a vow of abstinence and said, no, 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 no. I want to wait. I want to save myself. And inside I went, now, I have never had a man say that. I think I'm going to sign on to this experiment. This sounds interesting. And that's exactly what happened. I was like, oh, this is impressive. He doesn't want to objectify me. He doesn't have to do me. He's willing to wait. And I just saw this honor in this. It was almost divine, right? And then a few more months pass, and I'm like, okay, now wait a minute. I think that's impressive, but come on. I mean, we are sexual beings. We require physical contact in the form of, like I said, a hug, a kiss, wrap your arm around. He wasn't doing any of it. And that's when I went, something's off here. And I don't know what it is, because I'm naive back in my 20s. There's a lot that I don't know. There's a lot that's not been exposed to me. But I'll never forget the night I went back to my apartment. I sat on the corner of my bed and I said, and this is not a direct quote anymore, but the inference was, Meg, something's off. I don't know what it is, but this is a guy you're not going to marry. You're not going to get married and find out later. Thank you. I think that's where my Catholic religion upbringing did help. I was like, no, divorce is not an option for me. No, 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 no. I was so anti-divorce in a good way that I listened to that inner voice, we call it, or your intuition. And us women, we got that locked down. All I know is I went, arranged to meet him. He didn't know I was going to give him back the ring. We met after work one evening. I gave him back the ring. He was shocked to the point where he went speechless, which I also now think is very interesting, that he didn't have a need to know, a need to process, a need to, no, let's talk this out, let's figure it out. He just passively just was like, okay. Folks, the next day, this is before texting and emailing, and it was even before cell phones. But I had a landline and a voicemail. And I went home from work that day, and I had half a dozen messages from people who found a way to get my phone number, who knew him, Jerry. And in so many words, the messages were, you dodged a bullet, girl. Congratulations. So glad you didn't go through with this. You know, he's gay. Been gay for a long time. And I'll never forget being in my apartment and having my jaw drop. I mean, I'm like, what? I mean, think about that. I was like, what? it was like my head exploded. I went, oh my God, this makes sense. How come he didn't feel compelled to touch me? I'm not his type. Not his type. Not ever going to be his type. And the part that I do, I'm so glad I can laugh about this stuff, but the part that really sealed it for me was it was just a few years later when Oprah showed up. Is that right? It doesn't matter. Oh, I just remember Oprah did a show on calling it Men on the Down Low. Men who are gay, full-blown, get married so that they can camouflage, cover, mask their down low life, which I think is brilliant, quite frankly. As a therapist, I think that's very, very savvy, very strategic, and I know it's possible. Because as humans, we have the ability to act. We sure do. Oh, we can dial up many parts of ourselves that serve us to masquerade and to fool and persuade. So you're looking at her. I got duped. And the part that I loved about me is I never blamed him. I just said, Meg, look at the power of what desperation means. Look at how that will affect, directly influence your decision-making process. When some need overrides something else, and that's exactly what that was. I think I'm ready for a break, Pearl.
Woo! All right, we're going to do that.
Woo! Stay tuned, I got more. Marriage, to do or not to do, that is the question. Oh, okay. I just assumed the music would keep playing, but that's all right.
I'm completely positive. I think this time around I am gonna do it like you never knew it. Oh, I'll make it through. The time has come for me to break out of the shell. I have to shout that I am coming out. I'm coming out. I want the world to know. I got to let it show. I'm coming. I'm coming out. Come on. I want the world to know.
Hey, there's my man, Marvin Gaye. Marvin Gaye. I still fantasize about you, Marvin. I do. So sorry you're gone. God, you know, if I would have been asked, Meg, name one person, if you could bring him back that you'd love to just spend an evening with, whoo-wee, Marvin would be my man. His music just sets me on fire. And it fits. We're talking about marriage, which is also about love and sex and romance and a bunch of things. Well, not for everybody. Not for everybody. But it's in the same family. So welcome back, gang. Meg Higgins here, your queen of second opinions. And tonight's show is marriage. To do or not to do? That is the question. Because I know one thing. That institution is in a state of upheaval. And I'm actually thrilled that it is. That people are now slowing things down, becoming more conscious around their choice of partner. And I know vetting is going on thanks to the dating apps, and there's all these boxes that people are using to check. I'm not a proponent of that, but I am a big proponent of just move slow. Move slow. I wish engagement could be legislated that you have to be together a year and a half before you even start to talk about the date. Thank you, Carl. I love my lipstick. And he just pointed out that it was hanging on my teeth. You see, I'm going to model imperfection, you guys. That's part of my other commitment. But I think engagements are underrated, and I think marriage is a bit overrated. I like the idea of a long engagement because it affords you the time to really see where the landmines and the potholes are, which is code for where is this couple going to need to get in the trenches to negotiate, to process, to be vulnerable with one another, to let each person's imperfections show so that the other can start to learn how to live with the imperfection in that person. And that's where a lot of people miss the boat and they bail. Interesting statistic. Again, long time ago, they called it the 7-year itch. And what that meant was 7 years, and this is more towards my parents' generation, it spilled over into mine. 7 years is when we would notice things would get rough and people would respond to the going being tough by having an affair or moving more into workaholism in the sense that they would lean more and stay at work longer or say yes to travel projects. In other words, get away, get some relief. And then eventually things might come apart. It's now 3 years. The average number of divorces, the highest number of divorces are taking place after 3 years of marriage. Wow. And I also see that in the dating world, in exclusive. 3 years is, again, because that's where the veil gets lifted. You really see things in yourself and even in the other that you don't like that need attention in some form or fashion. I call it cleanup, which is why I have my little shovel. Because that's exactly what was going on for me. Post that engagement brouhaha, where I almost married a gay man, I took one long look at myself and I said, girl, what do all these men have in common that you keep attracting? You. So I put my sweet tushy into therapy in my late 20s. Clean up my backyard. That's when it started. And I am so grateful. The things that I started to take a look at, what got me here? What were the wounds that were not attended to, much less in the healing process, that were largely responsible for me having a lousy picker? And that's exactly what that was. And I use a lot of metaphors, but the one that I like is that in childhood, now this is my therapist talking, in childhood, based on what goes on, even in utero now, up to age of 8, those are the most developing years. that child might as well be a sponge. They are observing, observing and absorbing things that are being said, the temperament in the house, the emotional energy, and then they start watching behaviors in the people that are raising that child. No one's perfect. We're all going to have needs that go unmet. And that's another way to look at it rather than woundedness. Just what holes do I have? Kind of like a piece of Swiss cheese that didn't get filled. And I'm one of 10. There is no human, mom or dad, that is equipped, has the capacity, the ability to bond with 10 other human beings who are pretty much a year and a half to 2 years apart top. That's not possible. So it was built into the design of my childhood that I was going to march into adulthood with unmet needs. The advantage of me having this history of attracting losers, dirtballs, and then a guy who was full-blown gay, thank you, and me saying yes to that was just the epitome. It's like, Meg, it's time to check under the hood. And that's exactly what I started doing. And in that process, I realized, oh my God, Meg, you're taking so many of these unmet needs to these guys with the unspoken expectation that they will fill me up. Never understood that that was my responsibility. Isn't it interesting that I grew up in a time, Carl? I don't think you've ever seen this. Full service gas stations. Have you ever been to one? I don't think I think there's a few around. Someone told me there are certain states that still have them. But you've never had the experience.
I've seen it. And
But you've not ever used it? Or like,
when I went out of town, when I was down in Central America, they still do it down in Central.
other countries. I didn't even think about that. I haven't been out of the country in a long time. Well, that's the metaphor I like to use as a therapist with relationships is that I went into relationships just like I used to pull into a full service gas station. I remember this. I remember loving watching these 4 guys, not one, not 2, not 3, not 4, 4 guys running out to my car to pump my gas, fill my tires, check my oil, and wipe that windshield. Full service. That's what I went into relational life and especially marriage. This guy is going to not only complete me, he's going to take care of me in a full service kind of way. And isn't that metaphor interesting? Now, some of you youngsters, you don't have this in your history, so you don't know what the heck I'm talking about, but that's all right. Stay tuned. There's other ways that you get in denial around relationships and whether or not this is going to make it, and this is my person. That's the other phrase, which I keep hearing now. My person, my person. Like, really? I could see my dog. I don't know. Do I need to put a leash on my person and walk them through life with me?
You know, some people like that, but that's another. That's
right. Because I'm not here, no judgment. I'm a no judgment person. That's why they call me the queen of second opinions. Just an opinion, no judgment. But full service to self-serve. In other words, the thought of me starting to attend to my own needs is the best course of action to be in a relational world. I know me from top to bottom, and what you do, what you provide, what you offer is a plus. It's an add-on. It's just like with the house. I'm my own house, and you're coming. We're going to be together. Let's add a couple rooms. It's an addition, and that to me is the shift that's slowly starting to happen. So again, I frame this marriage to do or not do. That's a black and white point of view. I'm all about discovering the gray. I really do believe that marriage is going through an overhaul. I do believe a lot of it is outdated. But more importantly, again, the fact that I had not done any self-examination and finally started was the beginning of my taking care of myself, understanding myself, so that I could bring more of my best self to a relationship, much less marriage. And I wish my first therapist was around. She's not. I would just be kissing her and hugging her. I was such a hot mess. She didn't use that word. I don't think that word was around, but I love that word. It really did describe me back then. She got so clear that one of the directives she gave me, she's like, Meg, you're going on a sabbatical. I'm like, what? She's like, yeah, check this out, Carl. Sabbatical. You are not allowed, and she made this grounds of me working with her. To continue working with me, because I was so out of whack, you do not get to date men, have sex with men, and not even affiliate. I had a couple of male friends, but not many, because I was into other reasons for them. But no, and she's like, so if someone invites you to a party, you're not going. Or if you go, you hang with the women. I mean, she was spot on, dead serious. She wanted me to be on it for 6 months. I said, hell to the no. I'll do 3. I mean, you want to talk about being in a pure state of discomfort? Carl, you wouldn't have wanted to do that. Yeah, I know. My friends thought she was nuts and that I was nuts, but I said yes because you know what? I knew. I just knew. It's like, I just knew. I had a track record that was so unappealing and probably could have maybe had me serve some time in hell. But I didn't have to do that. So I did. And I will never, the fact that I was so uncomfortable told me this is exactly what I need. And that was the beginning of Meg's start of getting connected to myself. That's where it began. I heard something the other day, which is really what prompted me to talk about this tonight, marriage, to do or not to do. Someone said, we all marry, and especially marriage, because it is a till death do we part. That level of commitment, because it's backed up by law and it's a business transaction. I think if those things weren't part of it, I'm not so sure what place marriage would really have. But because it's bound in legality and involves, again, a business transaction, this therapist actually, who was, said, we marry our unfinished business. Ooh, when I heard that, I went, well, now. And there's no getting around that. So the savvy person / couple, because I did a lot of premarital counseling, would, if they were smart, they would buy into that point of view, and it's just a point of view, and see where that takes them. Well, I'm now just hearing this in a formal way, but I know that's been my experience. You see, gang, I eventually did get married several years after that sabbatical. And that sabbatical served me well because I had done a lot of cleanup. Not all, but I had a pretty good start. And there were a lot of parts of my old wounded self that did not go into that married life. And I'm very proud of myself. Interesting. In addition to we marry our unfinished business, which I'll come back to, the other profound thing I've learned and heard and believe is to be true is if you're really interested in going the distance, you want the full longevity of a life with a person, especially if it happens to be in a married context. But I'm not limiting it to that. The thing you really, really, really need to have going for you as a couple is you need to have 2 to 3. Doesn't matter what they are, but you both need to share 2 to 3 what is called fundamental values, meaning these are things as an individual, no matter who you go out with, these are part of your core essence. So, example, guess what? This will not surprise any of my friends who are listening right now. Fun. Having fun, Carl, is one of my core values. If I'm not playing, laughing, joking, being like a a 6 or 7-year-old, life is just meaningless to me. I love having fun. Now I have my family of origin to thank, because we were a hoot. You get all of us together in a room, and my sister, she quoted a country music song a long time ago. Meg, we're not here for a long time. We're here for a good time. And I went, that's true. She's like, yeah, that runs through this bloodline of the Higginses. It doesn't matter where we are. We know how to have fun. And I used to get called party girl. It wasn't it. Party girl to me takes on a whole new meaning. But fun and play, that's one of my core values. So it's no wonder I married who I married. That man had the same core value as me. He knew how to have fun. We were like two little kids on a playground. Beautiful. But again, it doesn't matter what they are, but to share 2 or 3, that is a baseline that will serve the coupleship. As a matter of fact, I am convinced now that's one of the reasons why we got so many years in, was that in spite of whatever the rough times were, we had that core that just really bonded us together. Another thing, we both valued higher education. Now, I learned that from my father. He assigned that as a big value. I took that on. That was my former husband's value too. When I met him, he didn't have a bachelor's degree. He was certified in many areas in his profession, but he really wanted to complete. And he did in our marriage. And he also wanted to aspire to elevate the quality of our life. That was another value that I have. And maybe it's because we're both Geminis. We used to kick that around. We just were restless souls, and we liked to go after. We were pursuers. Neither one of us were cut from the cloth where we were going to, in our professions especially, do the same thing, report to the 9 to 5, go home, and live for the weekend. No, we wanted each of us individually and together to enjoy that which we were producing or contributing. In my case, serving. I'm big on serving. Interesting. And the other thing is, we valued personal growth. Carl, I don't know, did I ever tell you that I met my former, and I'll explain the former eventually, in therapy?
Ooh.
Oh, yeah. That story puts a lot of people, they freeze and they're like, what? And that was only because as she did individual therapy and group therapy, but one of the things she added to her business was workshops. And so she invited all of her clients. He was a Tuesday night client group, and I was Thursday night. So we both ended up at the same workshop, and we, eyeballed each other, like, And then eventually, he made the first move. I saved my making moves till later. my third. I'm making moves now. I love to flirt. I just love the company of men. It's not about having a man. I just enjoy men. And I've often said I think I have my 5 brothers to thank. But that aside, there's something about masculine energy that just I find very interesting, stimulating. And, I don't think we're meant to only affiliate with the same gender or the same age group. And if you listen to my show the other week about, closing the gap, I got people in my 20s and their 30s and their 40s in my life. My life was fuller and richer. But in case you hadn't noticed, I like diversity and variety. And the other thing is, again, we both liked, to accumulate, acquire, assimilate, elevate. So we were fortunate that we had several values in common that allowed us to, again, keep going. So having that, for any of you who are engaged, who are thinking about, will I ever marry again? I wanted to talk about this so that you would have some other points of view in your hopper to contemplate and sit with. And that's largely because the state of marriage is going through, like I said, an overhaul. And there's a lot of questions out there. Like I said, I think the old model, and the old model is what it was modeled to me. And there were parts of that that I mimicked in our marriage. This is now the part that we marry our unfinished business. In my marriage, in many ways, very stereotypical. You know, even though I worked and I had my own career, that excited my partner until it didn't. At some point, I could see he became threatened by the notoriety that I was getting because I had a radio show, I had a newspaper column, I was doing a lot of traveling, a lot of public speaking. And over time, I could see that he wasn't able to share that way. Interesting. So, very stereotypical. It's like the guy goes out and makes the living, or for sure makes a lot more money, or for sure gets the name and the claim and the notoriety, and that's where ours got messed up. So that was a problem. There wasn't, whoops, lost that earring. I'll take the other one out just to balance things out. So, you know, I grew up in guys do this and women do that. So very stereotypical. You weren't ones to share turf, share a lot in the decision making. In other words, reciprocity was not something I understood. So that became very evident that that was a sore spot in our relationship. That was healing grounds for me. And women, you know, typically are groomed to do all the caretaking. And boy, I look back, folks, I did too much. I really did. I compensated for so many things that he didn't do. Rather than calling him out or inviting him in, I would just do it. Oh, what a kiss of death that was. What a kiss of death. Yep. But overall, the marriage did end after 34 years, and it ended in a way quietly. But there was an event, and that will remain private except for the people who are in my inner circle. But overall, to be in a relationship is a grown-up step, to take that risk. Because when you love, part of loving is risking losing. Whether that's a marriage ending, whether that's someone dying, whether that's someone leaving you. But an end is built into every relationship design. Every relationship is going to end. But in our case, we were good until we weren't. And when I look back, it's very clear to me that what brought us together, the desire to keep growing, stopped on his part. And I did not make that a concern. I did not raise some hell around that. I did not put a light on that and say, wait a minute, we're declining. I just let my travels and my work distract me away. But we were both guilty of not attending to one another. So to me, married or not, key fundamental values, make sure you've got a few of those really shared, really in common. It's a kind of a silly, almost old-fashioned metaphor, but especially marriage, because there's so much at stake. There's the finances there, oh my God. And then if you had children, and then if there's divorce and all that visitation, and it's just a mess. There's just so much at stake. Attend to the marriage like a garden. It requires watering. It requires taking the weeds out, which I call cleaning up the backyard. Keep attending to what's falling short, what's not working. Otherwise, the term is grow apart. I don't know that you grow apart. I think it's more like you just stop growing together. And that's something that we all have the power to affect a change. Yes, Carl?
Marriage, to do or not to do?
Yep.
That is the question.
That is the question. And again, not for or against. I will say I think it's a bit overrated. I know it served a special place and a special time in my life, But I love the fact that I didn't let divorce define me. I did not let that be the end of me, and for many people it was. So on that note, folks, Meg Higgins, queen of second opinions. I've shared a few of mine. Hope you've learned a few things, although there's different ways to learn. Some people learn through laughter and humor, and I'm pretty good at that. So we've got the holidays coming up. There will probably be some changes in my podcast schedule, so stay tuned. In the meantime, secondopinionated.com. If you want to know the services that I am available for as a clinical therapist, as an entertainer, as an edutainer, go check me out. Let people know I'm here, I'm for hire, and because I'm a woman of service.
You got a QR code, Meg. We made you a QR code,
So what do I do with that?
Just tell your people to ask you for your QR code.
Ask me for my QR code, folks, and we'll go places together. In the meantime, I love what I do, and what I do is loving me back.
I do my hair toss, check my nails. Baby, how you feeling? Hair toss, check my nails.